Hello, 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 hello. Hi, man. Ah. I hope you can't hear my cat purring. She's quite the loud purr. Hello, 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 hello. Item number SCP-062. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. 062 is stored in a dedicated containment cell at Site Redacted under clean room conditions. Any experimentation on 062 must receive prior permission from at least 2 Level 3 personnel and must only be performed with independent power sources. 062 must never be attached to an external network, and all data extracted from 062 is to be stored on external non-volatile media until analyzed. Description: 062 appears to be an unbranded personal desktop computer housed in an aluminum case of indeterminate manufacture. 062 is usually heavy at approximately 24 kilograms and lacks manufacturing or branding labels of any kind. The words "Information is freedom" were found scratched into the casing or near the back, apparently with a key or similar object. Inspection of the interior has revealed that 062 is empty except for a blank circuit board in place of where the motherboard of a standard personal computer would be. 062 will not function unless the case is completely sealed, and attempts to open the case while it is operating cause it to shut down immediately. Despite this, 062 operates as expected for a normal desktop computer, with the exception that its performance, operating system, contained data, and language appears to be different upon every activation. 062 was discovered in the basement of the University of Redacted Computer Science Laboratory by Redacted. An embedded Foundation agent seized the object and brought it to Site Redacted, where it has been contained. Addendum 001. List of notable activation results. Date redacted. Description: SCP-062 appeared to be running Windows XP in Catalan. Analysis of contained data showed financial records for the redacted banking firm in France for the period of May 1963 to April 1987. These records were inconsistent with actual bank records procured by undercover Foundation agents. Date redacted. Description: 062 appeared to be running Debian Lexion in Latin. Contained data consisted of a library of audio recordings of over redacted choral songs and hymns, of which there are not found in any collection or have never been performed. Date redacted. Description: 062 appeared to be running a version of Solaris in Portuguese. Contained data consisted of promotional and marketing material for Redacted, which appears to be a commercial spaceflight corporation that does not exist. Date redacted. Description: 062 appears to be running an unknown operating system, system visually similar to OS2, with an unknown language, later identified to have strong similarities to that of Voynich manuscript. Attempts at deciphering the contained data are ongoing. Date redacted. 062 appeared to be running redacted in French. Contained data confirmed to be that of a standard Foundation workstation, though site indicated by its location data. Site redacted does not exist. Investigation ongoing. Date redacted. Description: 062 appeared to be running Apple OS X in what appears to be Akkadian cuneiform script. Contained data appears to be comprised mainly of religious texts and the descriptions of ritual and ceremonial procedures. Date redacted. Description redacted. Investigation is ongoing as to how the virus managed to compromise 3 workstations and 1 file server before 062 was forcibly shut down. All affected workstations have been isolated. So just an RNG computer. Really, kitty? Really? You're gonna start squeaking now? You were quiet all morning up till now. I assume that's what the redacteds were. SCP-063. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. 063 is to be kept at all times within Doctor's Redacted's personal bathroom, located within the personnel quarters upon Site-19. Object is to be used as designated at least once in a 24-hour period, or the subject will begin to emit an unknown specialized radiation that results in objects and material within a 0.6 meter, 2-foot radius being slowly warped and eventually disintegrated into a fine dust. Radiation's effect on living subject tests has not been monitored. Description: 063 appears to be an average pale blue toothbrush. Stenciled along the side of the object are the words "the world's best toothbrush." The word toothbrush is spelled incorrectly, though whether this was accidental or a purposeful action by the creators of the object is unknown. 063 displays the ability to effortlessly cleave through any and all dead or inorganic material, the focal point of its ability being the bristles. However, matter touched by the bristles is not separated, such as by way of a knife, but completely expunged from existence, leaving no trace whatsoever. This mode of operation is reminiscent of SCP-2207, suggesting the two anomalies share a connection or are created by the same entity or entities. Additionally, subjects who have used 063 have claimed that the experience left their teeth feeling remarkably clean. In spite of its extraordinary abilities, lab analysis has discerned that 063 is completely made of common plastic. Addendum: 063 was originally found in St. Petersburg on the person of Redacted, a thief working in the area using 063's abilities to crack safes. When questioned about the object, the subject professed ignorance, claiming that he had simply found the object one day. Questioning of the subject continued until he took his own life. His reasoning for doing this, as of yet, unknown. Yes, I believe they do. It's only dead and inorganic matter that it cleaves through. Because your teeth are still living matter. Item number 064. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. SCP-064 is to be kept in a suitably remote area for observation. Current goals are to generate a geometric model of the object's behavioral pattern and to observe any changes in this pattern due to location and soil composition. Certain sites in the Gobi Desert and Australian outback, as well as a number of salt flats scattered around the globe, are under consideration for future testing. 064's current location is classified to all personnel under Security Clearance Level 3. Once growth is stopped, field teams are to document the structure's size, shape, and composition and remove the object for transport to a new site. Description: 064 is a light brown earthenware brick composed primarily of silicon oxides and some organic matter. Object weighs 1.6 kilograms and measures some 10 centimeters by 6 centimeters by 20 centimeters. Its surface is smooth and flat, with some minor cosmetic chips. By and large, the object is visually similar to most solid bricks used in construction. When left laying on a flat expanse of soft earth, 064 will begin to multiply through an unknown mechanism. Close observation reveals the appearance of an irregular lattice of silicon fibers in the shape of the original object, which then fills and solidifies with a soil-based mixture until it attains the proper mass. The process may be similar to mycelial propagation in fungi, with microscopic root structures mining minerals from soil in the immediate vicinity. Under optimal conditions, soil composition at roughly 90% silicon dioxide, it takes approximately 70 minutes for one complete brick to appear. It's good that he got back then. Given the large expanse of Earth to work with, 064 produces a highly complex but theoretically stable freestanding brick structure, including floors and ceilings. Past observations indicate that the structure could attain the shape of a 12-point star over 10 kilometers in diameter and of considerable height. However, this is speculative, as growth stops permanently once the structure contacts a significant obstacle observed to include any solid object over 10 kilograms in mass. Structural integrity is very high, as bricks orient themselves to be as level as possible and fit together almost perfectly. Interestingly, the structure's growth is tailored to a specific set of cardinal directions, with 064 always being the northernmost brick on the lowest level. 064 must be attached for growth to occur. Once 064 is removed, the structure begins to decay, and all secondary bricks crumble to dust at a rate roughly equal to their rate of appearance. Replacing the object every 20 minutes halts this decay and allows growth to continue. Past this threshold, the process is irreversible. 064 was found by chance in April of 2000 redacted during satellite observation of an elevated plateau in the Andes Mountains. A camera operator noted that one structure was apparently growing. Extrapolating the object's approximate location from the structure's apparent direction of growth, which stopped during recovery, field team located the object by differences in color between 064 and its secondary bricks, which were high in iron oxides from the local soil. A full excavation of the original site is underway in order to ascertain the object's cultural and technological origins. Well, that's a handy little brick. If they could copy it, it'd be great for low-income housing. Item number SCP-065. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. As 065 cannot be moved, it has been contained on-site, and Site Redacted has been established around it. Site Redacted has been marked as a government research facility off-limits to civilians, and unauthorized individuals attempting to gain access are to be detained, questioned, and administered Class A amnestic if deemed necessary by site security. Yeah. Well, healthy capitalism would. An area 17 meters in radius around the center of 065 has been designated the Red Zone. Personnel may not enter the Red Zone of 065 at any time. An experimentation of 065 may only be performed with prior approval from at least 2 Level 3 senior research staff. Personnel at high risk of cancer must not be assigned to Site Redacted, and all Site Redacted personnel must undergo mandatory monthly physical evaluations, including cancer screening. Hang on, Kitty wants back in. Come on, Stinky. Stinky Kitty, come on. Come on. There we go, you fluffy dummy. 065 is a spherical region of space approximately 12 meters in radius located on a farm near Redacted. 065 was formed by the destruction of an anomalous effect on site by the Global Occult Coalition on Redacted. The Global Occult Coalition, as I think I stated yesterday but didn't get recorded because I'm a dummy, is essentially a rival organization that instead of wanting to contain anomalies and objects, they wish to simply destroy the abnormal. And they pretty frequently have their beliefs destroyed because destroying a lot of anomalies is a bad idea. Immediately following this initial event, the radius of 065 was estimated to have initially expanded at 100 to 108 meters in radius, resulting in the deaths of 11 GOC operatives and 5 civilians. Since containment by Foundation, the effective radius of 065 has shrunk to and remained stable at its current size. 065 causes abnormal transfiguration of any living organism within its area of effect. These effects include, but are not limited to, regression of specialized cells to an undifferentiated stem state, spontaneous separation and fusion of undifferentiated cells, spontaneous necrosis of living tissue and reanimation of dead tissue, rapid genetic mutation of living tissue. These effects occur at a rate proportional to the mass and complexity of the organism. Plants and insects show few, if any, effects. Small animals will exhibit alterations following 7 days of exposure. Larger animals will show harmful mutations within hours, and human subjects exposed to the red zone have been fatally altered within approximately 15 minutes of exposure. To date, all attempts at directly observing the center of 065 have failed, as 065 causes a form of extreme sensory confusion in all observers that extends to recording equipment. Affected personnel have reported highly distorted vision and hearing that persists for several hours that can result in severe dizziness and nausea. Addendum 065-1 Researcher note: on Redacted, a robotic rover designed to use somotosensory rather than visual or acoustic navigation managed to reach the center of 065 and retrieve several objects. When pieced back together, the objects appear to be the shattered fragments of a stone figure of Kokopelli, a Native American fertility deity. Hey, that's one of my Native American deities where I got Itomi from. Along with the pre-incident data obtained from the Global Occult Coalition, it appears that this artifact had been used by a civilian family to boost the yield of their farm, and only came to the attention of the GOC when an investigation by the United States Department of Agriculture revealed genetic markers in their supposed organic crop consistent with those of genetically modified organism crops. The GOC attempted an on-site destruction of the artifact, resulting in the creation of 065. Following this incident, the GOC contacted a Foundation liaison and requested the assistance of containing the resultant anomaly. Yeah, so this is an example of a pretty safe anomaly that was just helping out farm yield. And then money-grubbing Department of Agriculture got pissy about it. And I assume some corporation that had copyrighted the GMO crops didn't want them doing it, so they called the GOC, and the GOC does what it does and fucked up. Addendum 065-2 Attached Document. The following document was recovered from the formerly civilian-owned farmhouse at Site Redacted. John, I heard things aren't going so well back at home. I wish I could come back and help right now, but it's tough over here now as well, and we're on the verge of some important discoveries. I know it's not much, but I found this during the trip. The man who gave it to me described it as a representation of that which is and that which might be. planted in the cornfield, and hopefully it will help some ends meet. See you soon, G. Yeah, that seems to be what happens to a lot of GOC situations. Not always, because the Foundation universe is a bit more complex than that. Sometimes the GOC is in the right and the Foundation is in the wrong. But that will mainly only be seen in the Tales, rather than the SCP series. Which we'll probably get to at some point. Oh, hang on. SCP item number 066. Object class Redacted Safe Protist Euclid Impetus. Special containment procedures. This is the redacted part. SCP-066 is to be kept in a safe deposit box at Site-21. Personnel level 2 or higher may perform experiments on 066 after filling the relevant request forms. Researchers may log their results in Experiment Log 066 Beta. 066 is to be kept in a tungsten carbide box in Site-21's high-value item storage facility. Once every month, this box must be manually inspected for damage to the interior. If damage is present, 066 must be moved to a new box. This task is performed via a robotic arm capable of performing the task in under 3 seconds. Description: 066 is an amorphous mass of braided yarn and ribbon weighing approximately 1 kilogram. Strands of 066 may be taken individually and manipulated. When this is done, a note on the diatonic scale C, D, E, F, G, A, B musically is produced by the object. When a set of 6 or more notes are produced, 066 will produce a redactedly benign effect of varying nature and duration. 066 will not respond to manipulation while any effect produced by it is in progress. Prior to Incident 66-2, results have included 066 transformed into a small calico kitten for 17 minutes. The kitten exhibited significant friendliness and playfulness and appeared to be declawed. A song lasting 4 minutes, acoustic guitar with vocal accompaniment by singer/songwriter redacted. The lyrics warned the listener not to use sharp objects without parental supervision. A small cupcake, chocolate with chocolate frosting, and a lit candle stuck on top. Notably, the tones produced prior to this effect corresponded with the opening notes of Happy Birthday. 066 became responsive after said cupcake was consumed. Incident 066-2. On April 8th, 18th, 2008, D664437 was instructed to use a pair of scissors to remove a portion of 066 for testing. However, when he began to cut it, 066 rolled 1 meter away from him before stopping and making unidentified squeaking sound. Before he could be provided with further instruction, 066 D-Class attempted to cut it again. 066 rolled away and produced the phrase, "Are you Eric?" in response. After the D-Class replied in negative, 066 morphed into its present state and began emitting loud, dissonant staccato notes until the D-Class was escorted from the room. After Incident 066-2, 066 began to exhibit behavior highly inconsistent with its previous properties. 066 now displays significant mobility, primarily in the form of being able to move tentacular portions of itself at very high speed. While 066 is either unable or unwilling to use this ability for transportation, it will occasionally attempt to damage its containment by rubbing its strands against the side of the box and gradually wearing it down. This process appears to be unusually effective for the materials in consideration. Additionally, 066 will automatically produce notes and effects in the presence of any human, regardless of whether that human interacts with 066. This process takes a minimum of 6 seconds. In the aftermath of Incident 66-2, effects produced by 066 have included a single bee was released near the containment, stinging the D-Class before flying away. The bee was not captured. It is unknown how the bee survived. Beethoven's Second Symphony was played at over 140 decibels, causing permanent deafness in 3 personnel and permanent hearing damage in 8 others. The room containing 066 experienced a sudden and complete absence of light for 5 hours. Personnel in the room reported hearing loud breathing behind their shoulders, although no source was apparent. When it is not producing anomalous effects, 066 will say the name Eric constantly in a deep, masculine voice. Footnotes: 066 consistently destroys any recording devices placed inside its containment box. I feel like this one had a different description to it when I last read it, but I don't remember. Okay. Item number SCP-067. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. When not in use of the object, when not in use or the subject of study, 067 is to be stored in its felt-lined wooden box. The nib is to be corked, and all art and writings are to be submitted to SCP Research Command for analysis and further experimentation. Description: 067 is a fountain pen made by a German supply company called Pelikan at some point between World War I and II. It is pale green in color with a single red line going straight down along the side. The shell is oak and the nib is extremely sharp, capable of piercing human skin if pressed even lightly. Though it appears to lack a reservoir, the nib never appears to run out of fresh ink. In addition, the pen writes in iron gall ink, which is suitable for artists but would normally corrode typical fountain pens quickly. Research has surmised that any subject holding 067 loses all autonomy of the hand and arm that grasps it. Full sensation is intact, but the arm below the elbow is controlled by unknown forces theoretically centralized within 067. One effect is that the controlled hand will start to use the pen to write a detailed biography of the individual holding the pen. The biography will include such information as the person's name, age, date of birth, criminal record, fears, etc. Other times, the pen has been known to write such things as an occurrence that happened in the person's lifetime. For example, when test subject 1204, male, held 067, he began to write a detailed record of a motor vehicle accident he had been in the year before. Later, the subject admitted that many details penned in the account were not readily available to him at the present time, i.e., the subject had forgotten many elements present in the written work, including his previous car's license plate number, the other vehicle's color, and so on. Subject stated that his memory of the event was so fresh in his mind during the transcription that he could taste the blood in his mouth. Subjects holding 067 have also been known to create intricate works of art, despite the subject lacking any formal art training or previous tendencies towards drawing. For example, test subject 1102F, a young woman with no previous artistic experience, was able to draw a winged creature resembling SCP-Redacted, described by researchers present as data expunged. When subjects are asked to explain what happens when they hold 067, the typical response is that the subject freely relinquishes control of their appendage to 067 so that it may complete its work unimpeded. See quoted response 01. Despite being instructed not to draw or write, Subjects describe feeling of empathy, admiration, and cooperation with 067 that coerces them toward a will not their own. Quote response 01. I don't really know how to explain it. It just kinda happened. When I picked up the pen, it seemed as if my hand wasn't my own anymore. I knew I couldn't move it if I wanted to, but I chose not to because I loved the picture I was drawing. It was like my hand had a life. Suddenly, my hand stopped, and I realized I had complete control over my hand again, and I put the pen back down. I looked at the drawing and saw how beautiful it was. I guess the pen decided it was done and finished with me. Tests and experiments. On Redacted 2000 Redacted, a test was seen how the pen affected living creatures other than humans. Experiment 001. The test subject, a male rhesus macaque aged 2 years and 4 months, who had previously learned how to use pens and markers, was placed in standard psychological surveillance room, neutral wall coloration, one-way observation mirrors, with 067, a work table, and a pad of paper. Subject picked up 067 in his left foot, then took it in his right hand, then tasted it. Subject then put the pen down on the paper and smelled it. After 30 seconds, subject picked up 067 again and began tapping it repeatedly on the table. Subject also began tapping 067 on his own body. Subject tapped 067 with increased force until ink splattered on his fur. Subject 067 Subject then threw 067 onto the floor. Subsequent mechanical analysis relieved no damage. At this point, subject tore a page from the pad of paper and began rubbing it on the ink in its fur. This continued for 3 minutes, after which subject clutched the page in its teeth and leaped from the work table onto the ledge of the observation mirror, with such force that the table was knocked over. Subject began smearing the ink from the paper onto the observation mirror while making repeated vocalizations. Subsequent analysis revealed that 50% of the vocalizations were consistent with typical distress vocalizations of the rhesus macaque, and 50% were unfamiliar. After 60 minutes of smearing ink on the observation mirror, subject began tearing at the page with his teeth and claws, but dropped it before destroying more than 20% of the paper. Subject then collapsed on the floor, breathing rapidly and repeating the unfamiliar atypical vocalizations. Subject's handler reports that once removed from the psychological surveillance room, subject's mood improved rapidly. Subject was closely observed for 2 months following the experiment, but did not repeat the atypical vocalizations. The sheet of paper was filed away and data expunged. Neat little pen. I wonder if it improves your writing capabilities, or your artistic capabilities as you use it. Item number SCP-068. Object class Safe. Special containment procedures. 068 is to be kept away from any metals in an electrically resistant box, preferably made of polytetrafluoroethylene, Teflon, and rubber. Said box is to be stored in Security Locker 26 at Site 11. Key is to be kept within Dr. Redacted. Any requests for testing are to be redirected to him. Description: 068 is a wire stick figure, 9.8 centimeters tall, made of an unknown metal. The figure is comprised of a single wire looping back to the center. The wire itself appears to have been bent numerous times in multiple places. When an electric current is introduced to 068, it becomes animate, moving on its own. 068's joints are where a normal human being's would be. Once activated, 068 begins to search around for any metallic material. Once metal has been found, 068 will begin to knead it and pull a thin strip of metal off. 068 will then construct another figure similar to itself. The newly created figure will begin to need the remaining metal alongside the original, creating new figures, which, in turn, produce more replicas. 068 will move on to its next stage after one of two requirements are met. First is when there are no more metals in range with enough mass to produce another figure. The other is when an upper limit of 102 replicas are created. When either of these events occur, all figures will converge at one location and begin forming themselves into as big a figure as possible. With a maximum of 102 minifigures, the resulting gamma, beta, and theta waves begin emanating from okay, skipped a line. With a maximum of 102 minifigures, the resulting figure reaches 2 meters in height. 068 situates itself in the intersection of the torso, arms, and head. Gamma, beta, and theta waves begin emanating from 068 after this union. 068 will then begin to search for more metals again, attempting to create more figures, only scaled up to whatever size 068 is currently at. These replicas do not emanate brainwaves like 068 does. If 068 is not at the maximum size limit after this, it will continue to create and add more figures to itself until the limit is reached. Once it has reached the second stage, and there are no metals available from which to construct figures, 068 returns to its dormant state after 4 minutes and 32 seconds of activity. Materials surrounding the original figure must be melted away in order to retrieve 068. Once 068 is capable of kneading and manipulating any metal present to it, regardless of properties. It also appears to be impervious to any attempts to damage or destroy it. 068, however, have the same properties and vulnerabilities of whatever metal they are constructed from. 068 can detect metals hidden from view through an as of yet unknown process. While 068 will not attempt to reach metals that are too difficult to get to, it will tear through anything that is soft enough for its limbs to penetrate. What it considers soft enough changes depending on what 068 is shaped from at the time. 068 Addendum A. A proposal was made to use 068 to dispose of dangerous metal-based SCPs. Addendum B. Please see attached document 06A. Document 068A. The proposal to use 068 for disposal of dangerous metal-based SCPs has been denied, seeing as how many, if not all, our dangerous metal-based SCPs are also invincible. The only thing we would have is a bunch of invulnerable wire figures running about. Honestly, who even thought this up? This one's gotta be interesting. Item number SCP-069. Nice. Object class, safe. Hi, Eleanor. How are you doing? Special containment procedures. SCP-069 Nice is currently impersonating former Foundation agent Redacted and is housed at Human Containment Site 06-3. Redacted. SCP-069 is to be provided with any reasonable requested item and or material so long as such request does not violate security protocols. As 069 Nice is currently on suicide watch, all requests it makes must be approved by no fewer than 2 Level 3 personnel. Well, I said I was streaming in the chat. It's the same time every morning. I don't really want to start pinging everyone, because that might be annoying. If SCP-069 attempts to breach containment, it must be subdued using non-lethal methods. If 069 dies, undercover agents are to be instructed to monitor reports of incidents in which individuals appear to have escaped certain death, and 069 is to be recontained as soon as possible. Note, Despite the fact that 069 is identical in all ways to Agent Redacted, it remains an active SCP in containment and is not to be treated as a Foundation employee. Any requests for classified information are to be denied, and visits from former coworkers without proper authorization are not allowed. Yeah, 'cause you woke up like real early yesterday, didn't you? Or this morning for you. You're such out of the time zone, out of our time zone. Description: 069, nice, is a presumed humanoid entity of variable appearance and gender. Through an unknown ability, whenever 069 is left alone with a recently deceased human body, the body will disappear and 069 will take on the appearance, mannerisms, and knowledge of the recently dead individual. Through extensive experimentation, it has been shown that 069 is completely indistinguishable from the individual it impersonates, matching the original individual's fingerprint, DNA, and data expunged with nearly perfect precision. 069 retains no knowledge of its abilities or former impersonations. 069 responds normally to injury and pain, but if killed will rapidly decay into dust, regardless of any preservation attempts. 069 will then re-emerge at the site of the most recent human death. There is no maximum range to this effect, and so far that has been observed in jumps of up to 675 kilometers. I don't forget you're British, I forget about the time zone thing. People are being noisy. 069 can impersonate a single individual indefinitely. However, it will gain an overriding urge to get their life in order, including but not limited to resolving any outstanding financial or personal obligations, visiting an extended family, updating their will and testament, and other acts of closure. When questioned, SCP-069, nice, professes no driving motivation other than a desire to straighten out their lives in the event of unseen injury or death. 069 first came into Foundation attention on Redacted 1990 Redacted, following reports of one John Redacted, a redacted city firefighter who miraculously emerged alive from a 3-alarm building fire in which 2 other firefighters and 11 civilians perished. I'm gonna take a minute for these guys to quiet down because they're being real noisy. Hello, 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 hello. God damn it. Gah. Undercover agents attached to the local authorities were notified of a possible SCP when reports emerged that the firefighters' equipment had been damaged beyond recognition and that it had been deemed nearly impossible for the fire to emerge unscathed. Approximately 3 weeks later, then presumed John Redacted responded to another large-scale building fire, during which he entered a smoke-filled room alone and was never found. A single civilian was rescued from the building, again nearly unharmed despite the heavy smoke reported within the building. 069 was designated following the following day and rendered into Foundation custody by members of Task Force X-93 Body Snatchers. Addendum 69 Nice 1. On Redacted 2000 Redacted, Agent Redacted, a guard on duty assigned to 069, was killed during the containment breach of SCP Redacted and subsequently impersonated by 069. Although initially in denial after being informed of its identity, it has been mostly cooperative since its impersonation of a mid-level Foundation employee. Contingencies for the use of deceased Jesus Christ Foundation employees for future 069 use is under consideration. 069 Nice 02. Unredacted 2000 Redacted. 069 attempted to commit suicide after a junior researcher accidentally informed it the family of Agent Redacted had been told that Agent Redacted was dead, and of their subsequent reactions. Due to the massive cost of possibly having to recontain 069, strict suicide watch measures are to be implemented. Plans to use other deceased Foundation employees as possible impersonation targets for 069 have been suspended. Well, that's a sad SCP. It just wants to help people. And also nice. Item number SCP-070. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. 070 is to be kept within a 10 meter by 10 meter reinforced concrete room that is to be guarded and remotely monitored at all times. This room must be always well stocked with non-perishable food and water. See document 070-IC for complete inventory of these items, as well as basic amenities for humanoid SCPs. Security personnel assigned to 070 are to carry sticky foam guns in addition to standard armaments. Structural integrity of 070's containment room is to be checked twice daily. In case of excessive structural damage, 070 is to be incapacitated and relocated to a nearby backup containment room, as described above. If a reinforced concrete room of sufficient strength is not available, 070 may be temporarily contained in a cell of stronger material until another concrete room can be prepared. 070 is to be given sedatives and painkillers on request, but no more than the maximum dosages determined by Dr. Dumont. Personnel who enter 070's containment room for any reason must be unarmed and should wear puncture-resistant body armor. Armed guards must remain outside and out of sight of SCP-070. In case of containment breach due to somnambulism, security personnel are to alert site administration to place food and water in the apparent path of 070 and to maintain a clear zone of 25 meters around 070. In any other case of containment breach, or if 070 becomes violent during somnambulism, personnel are to be authorized to incapacitate 070 using sticky foam. Care must be taken to avoid smothering 070. Because 070 reflexively responds violently to injury or attack, security personnel should refrain from using lethal force or otherwise injuring 070 if at all possible. Description: 070 appears to be a human male of Native American descent with a normal appearance, save for a pair of rusty metal wings emerging from its back. Each wing is composed of several flat iron bars about 16 meters wide, connected end to end by rotating rivets to form an articulated length of metal over 2 meters tall. Hanging from the bars are chains of various length, 22 on each wing. Each tip is barbed with an arrowhead. 070 appears to have no other anomalous properties besides these wings. The wings of 070 appear to act independently of the person they're attached to, and 070 has stated repeatedly that it has no control over them. However, when damage has been done to the wings, 070 has shown signs of psychological distress, including sweating, reduced blood flow to the face, and screaming in pain. The objects have been observed to fold and expand, shoot out and whip its chains at high speeds, both individually and collectively, and anchor its arrowheads into concrete, wood, and like materials. While 070 has not displayed any overt hostility to personnel, it will often react violently to perceived threats by lashing its chains out at assailants and wrapping its chains around its body in a defensive posture. The most effective means of subdual has proven to be sticky foam, non-lethal weaponry, which can reliably ensnare 070's chains from a distance. Despite their rusted appearance, the wings and chains of 070 are as strong as high-quality alloy steel. However, they are also stints of steel, and 070 cannot move about as a normal human due to the weight of its wings. However, 070 has been unable or unwilling to use its wings to facilitate human locomotion. 070 spends much of its time anchored to the walls and ceiling of its containment cell, usually sedated. Addendum 70-1, Incident 070-1. On redacted at 3:36, 070 breached containment. Security personnel were advised that 070 appeared to be asleep and were ordered not to engage 070 and to keep others away. By lashing the anchoring chains into the walls and ceilings in front of it, 070 was able to carry itself, still apparently asleep, through site redacted. 070 broke into food stores of Canteen 4 and proceeded to gorge itself on the available food and water. Almost 19 minutes later, apparently stated, 070 returned to its containment unit room. At no time did 070 appear to wake up. 070 claimed to no knowledge of the event afterward. Addendum 070-2, Personal Background. Interviews have revealed that 070 is named redacted and capable of reciting the correct social security number for a U.S. citizen of the same name and age. 070 claims to be a member of the Koia tribe and data expunged. 070 claims to not know how the wings came to be, only remembering waking up in a scrapyard with them and taking a lot of peyote the night before. Item number SCP-071. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. 071 is contained in a modified, standard human containment cell with no direct observation capabilities. Surveillance of 071 may only be performed via closed-circuit video with a minimum of 60 seconds of delay. Experimentation with 067 may only be performed with permission from at least 2 Level 4 on-site directors, and personnel entering 071's containment site may only do so in groups of at least 4. Any personnel exhibiting unusual or compulsive behavior must be removed from the area immediately, given a full psychiatric screening, and either administered Class C amnestic or reassigned as deemed appropriate. Under no circumstances should personnel be permitted to observe 071 directly or through non-delayed surveillance footage. All visual recordings and photographs of 071 must be destroyed immediately once they are no longer needed. Description: 071 is a metamorphic entity that possesses the ability to assume forms consistent with that of the observer's strongest sexual desire. This ability is effective even through barriers designed to prevent 071's recognition of any observers, such as those through closed-circuit surveillance or one-way mirrors, but can be prevented by introducing a delay in surveillance footage so that such observation does not occur in real time. 071 appears to be unable or unwilling to change form without external stimuli, instead remaining in its last form when left unobserved. There appears to be little or no limit to the form 071 is capable of assuming. See Addendum 071-01 for additional information. 071 also appears to be intelligent. However, as it has not shown any ability to verbally communicate, and its behavior is limited to actions which entice its observers to sexual activity, it is unknown whether 071 actually possesses sentience or merely mimics behavior expected by its observers. Human subjects allowed to engage in sexual activity with 071 suffered rapid atrophy of muscle, skeletal structure, and brain function, with onset occurring 1 to 2 days after contact. Atrophy persists for up to 7 days, dependent on the physical therapy administered after onset. The subject may suffer permanent decrease in stature, decreased organ function, decreased brain mass, and sterility. Subject to achieve gratification through masturbation via the use of media containing 071, whether delayed or not, suffer the same effects. 071 came to the Foundation's attention on Redacted, following data expunged. Due to ongoing medical cases consistent with exposure to 071, efforts to remove all visual recordings of 071 from the internet are ongoing. Addendum 071-01. Researchers note, 071's ability to change forms does not appear to be limited to normal human subjects. On Redacted, when presented to subject D7883, 071 assumed the shape of a female golden retriever. D7883 reacted with shock and refused to proceed with the experiment, though the subject's physiological signs were consistent with state of arousal. On Redacted, 071 assumed the form of a female human corpse when exposed to D8762. Medical staff confirmed a complete lack of life signs, and 071 suffered no harm from the transition, later assuming to form a redacted-year-old male subject when exposed to D8765. Dr. Redacted. Ooey, but D-Class are generally criminals, so they're bound to have some odd tastes. Item number SCP-072. Object Class Safe. Special Containment Procedures. All known instances of 072 are to be contained in a 3.5 by 4 meter holding cell. Access is allowed only during authorized testing procedures. Without prior approval from Senior Researcher Grant, no material created for the purpose of being slept on are to be introduced into a 15 meter of vicinity of the holding cell. Description: 072 were first discovered in an apartment building in Redacted, Michigan, after 2 local media reports on 072's effects caused local panic, which drew the attention of embedded Foundation agent Redacted. 072 is a shadowy, translucent projection which resembles a 0.9 meter long hand, the fingers of which taper to a sharp point. Detailed recording of 072 is difficult, as it does not manifest at light levels above 5 lux. Instances of 072 have been only observed to manifest when a human, hereafter referred to as the subject, enters REM sleep while located in a bed infected by 072 and leaves a foot or feet exposed to open air. If these conditions are satisfied, 072 will emerge from the foot of the bed and appear to use its pointer finger to tap the subject's foot until they awaken. Subjects have reported that at this point they were unable to move, showing symptoms similar to sleep paralysis. This continues as long as 072 is visible. I remember this one. This one messed with me. I couldn't sleep with my blanket off my feet for months after reading this one. Yeah? Annoying. 072 will then use its pointer fingers to cut portions of flesh from the exposed parts of the subject's foot or feet. It will return to within the bed in between each removal, emerging without the collected material. This will continue until 072 has taken all of the exposed foot or feet, stopping at the ankle. Though subjects exposed to 072 report this process to be immensely painful, its paralytic effects render them unable to scream or call for help. It is unknown if manifestations of 072 feed on the collected material or use them for some other purpose. As long as the wounds are properly treated, 072's effects are not fatal, but have observed to cause psychological damage relating to sleep in the future. Understandably. There is also a secondary effect. Any bed within an approximately 10-meter vicinity of a bed which manifests the effects of 072 while also host an instance of 072. Destruction of a bed affected by 072 reveals no anomalous materials and no trace of biological material moved from the subjects. Addendum: List of known SCP-072 objects. 072-1, 2, and 3 were recovered from original apartment complex. 3 twin-sized beds were located within 10 meters of one another. SCP-072-4, a king-sized 4-poster bed contaminated during 072's time in site redacted temporary anomalous objects holding. 072-5, a sleeping bag with bottom removed, introduced to 072-1 for testing. When D-2191 entered REM sleep-in object, data expunged. 072-5, not recommended for testing in future. 072-6 through 7, beds introduced to 72-2 and later destroyed for examination. Remains of -6 and -7 appear unaffected, but are to be contained until further studies may be completed. Yeah, that was one of the ones that really got under my skin. I don't know why, it was just not that... I don't know. Sleeping without a blanket just feels wrong anyways. Item number 073. Object Class Euclid. Special Containment Procedures. 073 is to be kept in a 2-room, cell furnished with all non-organic furniture and items, and a bathroom. Subject is allowed to freely water the facility and eat in the main canteen. A tracking device has been attached to 073's purpose and is not to be removed. Subject is disallowed any contact with the surface and not allowed the facility. Subject is allowed no contact with plant-based SCPs under any circumstance. Violence is not used against 073 under any circumstances. 073 is currently kept in Site-17. Description: 073. Yeah, same Valador. 073 appears to be a heavily tanned male of Arabic or Middle Eastern descent in his early 30s, 185 centimeters tall and 75 kilograms, with black hair and blue eyes. Arms, legs, spinal cord, and shoulder blades of the subject appear to have been replaced with artificial versions of unknown make and metal. Subject only takes notice of this when it is pointed out, and states that it has no knowledge of how or why when these replacements took place, stating it's had them as long as it can remember. There is a symbol engraved into the forehead of the subject which appears to be of Sumerian origin. Symbol has yet been untranslated and subject appears distressed when the symbol is mentioned at all, refusing to speak on it. Subject does not eat and drink on a regular basis, but is strictly carnivorous owing to its effect on plant-based items. 073, who refers to itself as Cain, is generally polite and genial to all who speak to it, though it has been described as being cold and somewhat mechanical in its speech. It is very helpful and enjoys aiding personnel in their daily actions, whatever they may be. It has highly detailed knowledge of ancient to recent events in history and most commonly spoken languages in the world, including ones that have since died out. Subject is professed to having photographic memory, remembering word for word all text in an 800-page dictionary that was flicked through in a minute and a half. It scored above average in all intelligent tests given to it. 073's presence in maximal to any and all life grown in soil, causing death to any such life within a 20-meter radius. Any land 073 has walked on, and any within 20-meter radius, becomes barren as all anaerobic bacteria dies, rendering the soil incapable of supporting life until new bacteria are introduced. Anything derived from soil-grown life, such as wood, paper, and immediately rots and disintegrates upon touch of 073. Further affected derivatives include any hydroponically grown. Violence directed towards 073 reflects any damage inflicted on 073 back onto the attacker, although 073 visibly remains unharmed. This applies to any damage directed at 073. Attempts to get tissue and blood samples have proven futile. When the procedure was initiated, personnel carrying out the action felt the sensation of whatever was applied to 073 and wound up with a sample of their own blood or tissue, despite all the fact that all actions were directed solely at 073. Indirection through a medium also results in the person perpetrating the action receiving the wounds caused. Although 073 receives no actual harm from damage to its person, it has stated that it still feels the pain of the action and has politely asked researchers to abstain from overly harmful actions to its person. Additional notes: 073 was found in New York Police Department in 19 redacted, having been taken in after subject had been found amidst the bodies of several violent gang members. 073 told police members that the gang had attempted to make sport of it, but became angry and attempted to kill 073, resulting in their own demise. 073 was incarcerated and was deemed a John Doe when NYPD could not find any information on it. 073 came to attention of the Foundation through a routine inspection of all John Does and was subsequently released into our custody. Addendum 1. In light of 073's indestructible nature, photographic memory, and general will to please, High Command have deemed it information that all information is to be backed up on 073, ensuring it is not lost in the event of a catastrophe. While this action has been met with mixed responses, 073 has agreed and sworn itself to secrecy on its part. Addendum 73-2. When information concerning 076 was brought to the attention of 073 for backing up, subject showed familiarity with the information, although it was declined to adding to it, despite the fact that it stated that it already knew about 076. It then stated it would be better for all parties involved that it not meet 076. 076 being its brother Abel, who Cain biblically killed, and Abel has not taken it well in the SCP universe. Oh boy. Addendum 3. Examination of the unidentified metal on 073 has suggested that it is beryllium bronze, a metal that has been documented at utilizing by various anomalous cultures and entities. Most notably, beryllium bronze is a component found in SCP 1216, 1427, 2481, and SCP 2711. Most notably, beryllium bronze is a component. In light of this discovery, the Foundation began working in an attempt to trace the origin of beryllium bronze and how it initially spread throughout the world. When prompted, 073 was able to provide information that suggests beryllium bronze originated in the Middle East, though the exact point of origin is yet to be determined. Further research into the origin of beryllium bronze is currently ongoing. I'm just thinking I might need to cut stream early because of dumb things. I think I have to cut it there, so I'll talk to y'all tomorrow. Have a good day, and send any requests for readings past SCP-1000 in the Whisper DMs. Bye.